What we're going to do today is we are going to work on loading up text files into Python, and eventually we'll get on to saving them back into our user area. So jobs that I need to do. First of all, in order to set things up, I'm going to make a folder in my area, and that folder is going to be purely for the work that I'm going to do today. If I don't save everything in the same folder, some of the other things later on won't work. So I'll make a working with text folder. Okay, I'm going to open that up. Now over here on this other window, I'm going to go to Shared Work, ICT, Computing, GCSE, and Working with Text Files. That's the file I want. It's the only file I've got. I'm going to drag that over and drop that down into the folder on my H drive. Getting rid of that. Now it's time for me to go and start work in Python. So here I am, Python 3.3 idle. And my first jobs will be make a new window and make sure I have saved my file where I want it. Remember, it doesn't work if you don't do that step of saving it into the same folder as my text file. Okay, so there's the file name. That will do. Right, first of all I'm going to import the string module, because that is useful for working with text later. And I'm going to make some of those extra little fancy bits that we like to put in the programs to make them a bit more usable. Now my first one, I'm going to make a function called CLS, or clear screen, and what we're going to do is use a load of enter symbols to move the screen down off of whatever it's on, so we end up with a clear screen each time. So if I do this, print quote marks backslash n is the symbol for a new line, so that Python will just press the return key for you, and I'm going to do that 100 times, and that's going to make sure that everything is well clear every time I do something. So I'm going to now set up a menu, because that's what I like to do. I think it's a good thing to have, a good habit to get into early on, so we just get used to doing these. So I'm going to set up a main menu program. My first action will be to clear the screen of everything else that's on there, and this will make it much easier when I come to move backwards and forward between the screen for loading a file and printing it. That can be then cleared, so I can clear away the menu, and then I'm going to clear that screen away and put the menu back up again once I'm done, and that will help me to make things very easy for the users, so there's only ever really what I want them to see on screen at any one time. That's why the clear function is very useful. So here we go. I'm just going to do a little bit of the odd typo. You'll notice I'll leave in the typos as we go. First of all, I'm going to just do a bit of formatting, set up some fancy stuff. So first of all that, followed by a little bit of text just to let them know where they are, and I'll leave the spaces in before and after to try and keep it as central as possible. This is a bit hit and miss. You could probably take a little bit more time, but for the purpose of this video, you don't want to see me spending 10 minutes just arranging something on screen. And then I'm going to copy this text down here, because this is much quicker than holding down the key again, much more accurate as well, to make sure I've got the same length lines. Right, underneath that we're going to have a little instruction to the user, just something that says make your choice. Leave a couple of lines underneath, so we're going to put a print, and you remember before I showed you that this was how to add a new line, so we're going to leave a line in there. That'll be quite a big gap anyway. Now we'll come on to print, and we will, number one, offer the chance to load a file. Okay, print, and then we'll have a line 2, and that line will be save a file, which will be something we come on to another time in another tutorial, but that'll be that. And then print zero to quit. Right, okay, now I've done that, I'm just going to set up a variable called choice. That variable will be used to store whatever the user chooses for their menu. If I just put your choice here. Don't forget, when you're doing an input prompt, it's usually nice to leave a space there, because that makes it really clear. If you don't leave that space, then the colon and whatever the user types just run into each other. So it's quite a good idea to do that. I'm also going to ask the computer to turn it into a string version, just to make sure I don't have any kind of problems with what the user types compared to what my choices are that I'm going to set up in a second. It makes it much easier if you set things to a data type you're comfortable with. That enables you to ensure that when you do your if statements like I'm about to, you know what you're dealing with and you don't end up with someone typing in an integer when you wanted text, or the other way around. So try to use that where possible. So if choice is equal to 1, I'm going to write this one in a second. So I know I'm going to have something for loading a file, because obviously I've put it in my menu up here. And my next one will be else. God, typing's terrible this morning. Elif choice is equal to 2. Okay, so if they choose 1, load file. If they choose 2, save file. Okay, and if they don't choose that, else. This is a really simplistic menu, and if you're coming to do a program, I suggest you do it a little bit more complicated, but you've got examples elsewhere of how to do it, so I will leave that for another time in another place. So this is a very quick you have quit, have a nice day. Okay, right, so if they choose 1, load file. If they choose 2, save file. And then I'm just going to make those 2 functions so there's actually something to call on. If I don't do this, then obviously nothing will work. So load file, and in this case we are just going to do some of that printing something on screen just to check that it's working, so I can test my menu. Load file. Okay. And I'm going to put this here, and what this will do, input open close brackets, it will just enable the screen to stop so that I can read that it says load file. I can press any key, press enter, and it will take me back to the main menu, because I'm going to do main underscore menu. It's going to leave me back in there. Then that will clear and that will disappear. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Take it here. Why retype it when you can just copy and paste it and change the odd word here and there. Okay, that right. Okay, let's give that a test. Oh, nothing. Right, let's have a little look. Oh yeah, the reason there's nothing is, of course, that I haven't called up my program from the main program. Now you remember this before. Remember I said when I program, I try to get any kind of declarations or initializations. They're the 2 things we would call them. Declaring what modules I'll need to run from elsewhere, so getting the string module and loading it. If I was going to be setting up global variables, and I may be later, if I was going to be setting those up, they would all be set up at the top here. Then I do my functions and procedures, which I'm going to declare down here, and then finally I have my main menu program. Now there might be more to my main menu, but in this example, then I am just using the 1 line in my main program. As it goes on, these bits will become more and more complicated, obviously. So let's have another little test. Check my menu out. Does it work? Well, first of all, it has cleared the screen. It's given me the menu I looked for. If I press 1, get the load file message. If I press 2, save file message. If I go 0, it quits, gets me out of the program. I think that'll do nicely for our first starting point there. So here we go. My next job is going to be to set up the load file procedure. So in order to do that, we're going to do some little jobs. So number 1, make this look a little bit better. by doing some underlining, some things like that. So underlining my heading, and then there we go. Right. Okay, my job's to do then. I've got to get the user to enter the file name that they actually want to load up. So first of all, right, now I've got that sorted, I've got my loader file heading. My next job is going to be to start thinking about how I'm going to load this file. So I want the user to input the file name. So what I'm going to ask for is, okay, we're going to call it file name, new variable, and it's going to be a string version of whatever the user inputs in response to the command that I give them. So please enter file name. That'll do. Watch my typos. And notice I'm actually leaving all my little mistakes in, so you can see I'm not going to pretend that everything actually works first time, so this may or may not work. Right, okay, so now I've got that. What I have to tell the computer to do is, first of all, I have to tell it to go and find the file. Then I have to tell it to read and look at what's in the file and save that. And then I have to tell it to print. I can't just do everything in one command. So there's always these stages. So number one, I'm going to... Okay, file to load. I'm going to set up a variable for that. And that's going to be given this. Now this is called the wrapper. Okay, so this open file name command, what that does is that just creates the link between this Python program and the file on the network. Now what I could do, if I were to be fussy, and if I needed the same file every time, I could actually do this. Okay, I could actually tell it what file I'm looking for, and it would go off and find that. But in this case, because I've got this variable up here that's got the name, so it's user defined, I can tell it to go and look for whatever's in that variable, and that does the job for me. Okay. So my next job is this command called file text. I've called this file text because it does the job of storing the actual text from the file. So again, I have to come in here and I'm going to turn it into a string. So I'm going to use that str command like I did before, and that just makes sure that whatever is typed in, it becomes a string. So I'm now going to do my file to load dot read command. So that just says read whatever's in the file, bung it into this file text variable. And lastly, I can come along and say print my file text, and whatever's in the file should be put up on the screen. Now if I'm not careful here, what will happen is it will just print it and then disappear and clear the screen when it goes back to the main menu. So actually again, I'm going to put input open close brackets, and that will just act as a press any key to continue. If we're feeling fancy, I guess we could also do print /n, press Andy key, no, press any key to continue. I'll put another new line there. Okay. The other thing I wanted to do as well was I wanted to clear the screen, so that once that's done, the menu's gone, it's disappeared, it's out of the way, and it just makes things look a little bit more professional. So fingers crossed this will work, but who knows. So here we go. Oh, let's just bring that window up so it can actually be seen. Okay, right. So making my choice, I want to load a file. Well, that bit works so far, that's good. If I go milligan.txt, which is the name that I saved, and there we go. Okay, it's printed my poem out. It's got my press any key to continue message there, but it's not entirely clear, so we're going to make it a little bit clearer, I think, and I'm going to do that by just quitting and then going back to my text loading work there, and right, okay, I think after the file name I think maybe here what we'll do is we'll clear the screen and we will put print, just to neaten things up again, just to make things look clearer. You can do these sorts of things at any time during your programming. It's just really worth it because it makes you look much more professional to the examiner when you send off your controlled assessment. So that's why it's a good idea to do it. So contents of file, and then I'm going to do a space, and then I'm going to enter the file name. Okay, that's my print command, and then I think underneath that we'll do some nice equal signs. Okay, that gives us that. Then at the end, I think I'll do another set of lines just to make it clear. Oh, it would be easier, wouldn't it, if I were just to copy all of that from there. I'll copy those in there. Right, okay, let's have another go. Load my file, enter my file name. That's a much neater way to look at it. I've got my press any key to continue down here. I'm much happier with that as a program. So this is going to be it for now for this first tutorial, which is loading a file up. See you in the next one.